Okay, we're filming the chemical reactions that are on page 193 of the textbook. We're starting off with silver nitrate and sodium bromide. Okay, so there's the silver nitrate and the sodium bromide. Let's see if this is making it clearer. Okay, so as I add the silver nitrate to the sodium bromide, you can see it's immediately gone from a clear liquid to a liquid with a solid, which means we've had a precipitate reaction. So silver nitrate and sodium bromide would have produced silver bromide and sodium nitrate. The silver bromide is insoluble, so that would have come out of solution. The next reaction we're looking at is we're going to look at hydrochloric acid. And for hydrochloric acid, we dip it in the litmus paper. And there's the color of the hydrochloric acid. And we've got sodium hydroxide. We dip that in the litmus paper. You see you've got the blue color of the sodium hydroxide and the red color of the hydrochloric acid. I'm going to pour these into a separate beaker. So there's a hydrochloric acid, sodium hydroxide. Now we get the third piece of litmus paper. See, that is now a blue color, which shows that it's still basic. If I add more hydrochloric acid, that's fine. We now add the hydrochloric acid and we mix it up. And the solution has gone acidic. Okay, and if we now add the sodium hydroxide again, we probably don't have enough to. Have you another piece of litmus paper, please?
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, so adding sodium hydroxide again, turn that back to basic. So what we've observed here is hydrochloric acid, which is an acid, mixing with sodium hydroxide, which is a base. We've had an acid-base reaction where it varied between acidic and alkaline and neutral in between. Okay, the third experiment, we're going to have 50 ml of sodium carbonate. That's our sodium carbonate. Okay, and copper sulfate, CuSO4. So there's our copper sulfate. Let's put 50 ml of each. Now what you can see here is that that immediately reacted. So we have the copper sulfate and the sodium carbonate. That reaction would have produced copper carbonate and a sodium sulfate. So once again we've got a precipitate reaction. Okay, then our last observation is going to be on copper sulfate solution. So there's our copper sulfate. We're going to now pass some electricity through it. This is the electrode beforehand. And this is the electrode, negative electrode. And as we get closer, we might be able to see that there's some bubbles forming. So you can see on the positive we've got some bubbles. So what's happening here is the copper sulfate is in the electrolyte. Copper sulfate is dissolved and it's allowing movement of the ions, of the charged particles. So we've got a current that is flowing. A minute or two. Show that there's current flowing in here. And if you look carefully, you'll see that on this electrode, on the negative electrode, we've got some copper that has been deposited. Okay, so there's some copper there. And if you look carefully on the surface, you might be able to see where it's dropped off. So that's the copper that is floating on the surface. So those are the four reactions we've seen. Now we can analyze them.